Say hello to our next TEDx speaker, Mr. Ashish Mehta. From managing global portfolios to empowering minds through financial Pathshala, his journey is all about knowledge, leadership, and passion. Mr. Ashish is registered with the NISM and FPSB. He manages personal portfolios for more than 500 families across the globe. He has organized and hosted an event for the Khadi Village Industries Commission of India through the DLLE unit, enabling students to engage with KVIC and learn marketing under the new Education Policy 2020. He was the president of Intent and Entrepreneurship Cell, president of Leadership Summit 2022, organizer of the first international conference by the EDC. Over to you, Mr. Ashish.
Good morning, everybody. Imagine waking up not with dread on a Monday morning. Imagine the fun, the excitement that a child will feel just while running out to play, or even better, the excitement when the school bell rings for recess. By a quick show of hands, can you tell me how many of you have been so engrossed in doing something that you love, that you enjoy, that you absolutely lost track of time? That feeling, that flow, that is play. And today, I'm going to be speaking about how you can turn that play into your purpose. Passion is a very quiet compass. It often points us in the direction of the activities that energize us, the problems that we return to, and also the subjects that we pursue for pleasure. It doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's a steady whisper. Give it attention. Take some time out, volunteer, take a course, experiment. Curiosity and practice are how a vague interest is going to become a real skill. Curiosity is the seed, discipline is the water, and persistence is the sunlight. And together, they grow purpose. Now, how many of you here have heard about Sal Khan? So, there's a man named Sal Khan. He loved tutoring his cousins in math just for fun. That fun turned into YouTube videos. And those videos later became Khan Academy, which today educates millions of learners around the globe. He never began with a plan. He began with curiosity. And his curiosity enabled that his fun became Khan Academy. It went out and impacted and created ripples in the world. And honestly, his story is something that I deeply relate to. When I was younger, when I was a kid, I wasn't even remotely interested in finance. In fact, I didn't even study it then. But when I saw my medical practitioner mom struggling to deposit a single bank check, later overcoming her challenges, and today becoming one of the top women personal finance experts whose journey has now been covered by a newspaper like Midday, my own curiosity was sparked. I used to sit with her thinking I was helping her, but in truth, I was learning. And that is when certain changes started to happen in my life. And that is when I realized things about play and purpose. And now I want to ask you a question. What would you do for a whole day, even if somebody did not pay you a single penny? The first thought that often comes into your mind, that is your play. But then, with patience, with practice, with deliberate focus, with mentors, and investing in security and planning, can you create a life where your work feels like that particular play? But it just doesn't happen like that. You require something called as discipline also. Let us look at Virat Kohli's example. As a boy in West Delhi, cricket was just play, just sheer love for the game. It was never a career plan. But that love for the game turned into discipline. That discipline turned into mastery. And that mastery turned him into one of the greatest cricketers of our time. That proves that passion is just raw energy. But discipline is the engine that transforms it into greatness. So whatever is your play, whatever is your focus, it eventually needs relentless focus, patience, sacrifice, and discipline. In my own life, in college, I wasn't studying finance yet. In fact, I was immersed in dramatics, debating, leading the entrepreneurship cell, organizing events, speaking to people, communication, leadership. That was my play. But later, when I first spoke about finance in front of an audience, it all clicked. That was my Virat moment. And that is when I realized that my play, that is speaking and communication, has now found its purpose in personal finance. That is the day I also realized that talent may open the door, but it is discipline that is what is going to keep you in the room. Now let us speak about transformation. Because it's not all play, it's called transformation for a reason. And nature gives us the perfect metaphor, the caterpillar. In the early stage of its life, it crawls around and it keeps on eating, which is often the steady, boring, mundane work of learning and growth. Later, it enters a cocoon stage. Inside the cocoon, it's full of isolation, messy change, loneliness, but that is where the caterpillar breaks down itself and rebuilds itself. And later, emerges a butterfly that is capable of flight and a much, much wider impact. And when I think of the butterfly story, I realize that we need to endure those hard cocoon moments because that is the only place where strength is found and transformation happens. And just like the butterfly, some stories do take a lot of time. Take Arijit Singh's example. He never began as a superstar. He started humbly, practicing, doing background vocals. He was singing at reality shows. There was no spotlight on him. He was never a superstar. But music was his play. And that persistence made him one of the most loved voices of our generation. Which means that staying true to your play and your passion, even when no spotlight shines upon you, can ensure that you become a superstar at a later stage in your life. And honestly, that is something I again deeply relate to. Because when the pandemic hit and everything moved online, I began helping my mom with tech and co-hosting and online meetings and things like that. The more I spoke about personal finance, the more I realized that my play of speaking and communicating and connecting to people is now helping people create meaningful wealth. What started as a curiosity which sparked just at the dinner table, watching and observing my mother managing people's money behavior, later became my purpose, my world, and my meaning. And honestly, when I look at her journey from a medical practitioner who had zero experience about investment to somebody today who's managing more than 130 crores of asset, reaching out to more than 500 families, that is where I felt motivated. And that is where I found that my play of speaking was starting to connect with that purpose of helping people manage their wealth and reach their financial goals in life. And honestly, that's the best feeling. Today, I take a lot of pride in being known as a part of a mother and son duo that is working as personal CFOs. And in today's world, turning your passion into your profession is not something that is really difficult. In fact, in our parents' and grandparents' generation, their life was all about stability and food on the table and survivability and things like that. But in today's India, 65% of our population is under the age of 35. That means the median age of the people in India is 28. By 2030, nearly 7 out of 10 individuals in India will be of the working age. And that means that we're just sitting on a wave of youthful energy and creativity that is just waiting to be unleashed and impact the world. And honestly, today in India, we are home to more than 150,000 startups with more than 100 unicorns. And the fun fact about it is that nearly half of these startups, they come from smaller towns and cities, which proves that today's India, opportunity is no longer confined to just the big metro cities. It also proves another fact, that in India, the youth today is not just dreaming about jobs, they are creating them. And that is something that is happening for the first time in our history. Now, I would like to leave you with a few principles. First, you need to develop your craft. Imagine a small child just playing with a rattle. It really doesn't make music yet. But when that same child grows up, learns an instrument, that's when the noise will become melody. Same thing happened with me. I enjoyed speaking to people. So dramatics, debating, voiceovers, communication, that all honed my skill. And today I'm able to confidently speak to hundreds of people about financial freedom. You need to connect yourself with purpose later. Think about bees. They just don't buzz around for fun, right? Every flight, it serves the hive, it pollinates the flowers, it sustains ecosystems. The same way you need to ask yourself a question, who does my work serve? When your play feeds others, it becomes significance. And that way I found my purpose in helping families live a financially stress-free life. That peace which they get has now become my purpose. With that, you also need to plan for security. Think about a squirrel that is jumping from branch to branch with wild joy, but it also gathers nuts before winter. That means that passion and stability are not enemies. Together, you can ensure that you take leaps and bounds while knowing that your ground is secure. Honestly, my mom began investing for me when I was 12 or 13 years old. And by now, that has created a good compounded base which is helping me to help others experience the magic of compounding. Later, you also need to ensure that you endure those hard cocoon moments. You go through that messy change, that isolation, because that is the only place where the transformation happens and a caterpillar will become a butterfly. When I began, I was very eager, but I was also naive. Dilemma and doubts were like regular visitors with the occasional breakdowns. But today, here I am, speaking on TEDx to an audience on how you can turn your passion into a meaningful profession. With that, you also need patience and persistence. Have you ever seen an ant that is so tiny yet carrying big, big particles of food and grain that is many, many times its size? That is building its futures. And that's a proof that your career is not built in one giant leap. It requires small, meaningful, yet stubborn steps. Meeting by meeting, exam by exam, interaction by interaction, speech by speech, discussion by discussion, I am now able to confidently cater to anybody in my domain, despite them being maybe at least a couple of decades elder to me. In short, what I want to tell you is that you need to identify your spark, identify your play, follow that with patience, persistence, a little bit of courage, and curiosity. You need to ensure that you go through the hard cocoon moments because that is the only place where significance is built. That is the only place where your wings are formed. And later, the most important thing, connect to a purpose that is much greater than you because that is what is going to help you go on and on and on. Now, with that, I would like to end this talk by saying that in today's India, the youth is not just dreaming about jobs. They want to build a life worth living. They are shaping the future of a young and dynamic nation. And so, the youth today, they should not just chase success, because success only feeds you. But you need to build significance, because success feeds you, but significance, it feeds others. Thank you.